Hello and welcome to Snowbiz 24/7. Small screen, big host, worldwide audience. I'm your host, Nicholas Snow. Yes, over 6 feet of snow has hit your internet experience. I'm on location in Palm Springs, California, in the VIP bar of the Camelot Theaters, and I'm going to introduce to you a filmmaking team that has come out with a very provocative, powerful, and truthful film, The Stoning of Soraya M. With me I have Betsy and Cyrus Nowrasteh. Welcome to my little internet TV show.
It's our pleasure.
So, I have not had the opportunity to see your movie, but when I knew I could talk to you, I wanted to showcase you for my audience. So Cyrus, tell me in a nutshell how this movie came about.
Well, it's based on a book, which is an account of a journalist who, stranded in a remote Iranian village, was beckoned aside by an older woman who said that she wanted to tell her a story of what had happened to her niece just recently in that village. She tells him he escapes Iran with the story. He went to France, he wrote a book. Betsy and I read the book. It was published in '94 in the States. It's called The Stoning of Soraya M. And it's an incredibly powerful story of what happened in this Iranian village. And it's a story of injustice, of women's rights, and fundamentally, though, it's just a riveting, true story. And it grabbed us, and we felt it could be a movie.
Betsy, do you recall how you felt when you first became aware of the story and viewed it from a perspective of a woman living in the Western world?
Absolutely. It stunned me. It stunned me. I couldn't believe the depth. It's something akin to a Greek tragedy in the sense there's everything in it. I mean, there's betrayal, there's lust, there's deceit, there's injustice, and it's true, and it's very raw. It's a very raw little story. I just related to her. I don't know why. I'm not an Iranian woman living in a remote village who is illiterate. I have nothing in common with her, and yet there was something so universal about the forces that came down to bear upon her that anybody could relate to. So I was stunned by it. We talked about it, and then eventually we pursued the rights to the story so we could write it.
Cyrus, you have a very impressive cast, some big stars. How did that come about?
Well, I teamed up with producers Steve McAveety and John Shepard, who produced, the Bobby Jones golf movie, Braveheart. Steve McAveety produced The Passion of the Christ. So we seized on a plan. Now, the initial actress that we got was Soraya. She read the script. As an Iranian woman, she responded to it passionately. She felt this was an important story. She came aboard immediately. And then later on, we were able to get Jim Caviezel to come aboard and play the French-Iranian journalist. And Jim has a way with languages. We knew that because he'd done Aramaic on screen. So, because he speaks English and Farsi in the movie. And the rest of the cast are really unknown, but incredibly talented and experienced Iranian actors, most of whom were living in the United States, and also looked upon this story as a kind of mission for them.
So there's the process of making the movie, and then there's giving that movie to the audience. What was it like for you the first time you screened the film with a big audience? Both of you in either order.
Okay. It's so nerve-wracking. At first I thought somebody stuck a knife in my stomach, and then my back went out. And I was wondering, what am I putting these people through? Because it's a powerful experience. The end of it, when we did a Q&A, this has happened since on many other occasions, but it was the initial time when woman after woman from the Middle East stood up in the audience, one after the next, crying, from Nigeria, Sudan, Somalia, Pakistan, Jordan, you name it, saying thank you, thank you, thank you. This is how it is. No one gets it in the West. No one gets it. And you're finally telling the story. We want people to understand. And then they come up later and hug and cry. And so that's who we made it for. We made it for them. We made it for all the Sorayas who have managed to flee these countries, and all the ones that are still trapped in very oppressive circumstances. And to have that is more gratifying than anything I never imagined that would happen. And that has made everything more than worthwhile. That's who it's for.
And Cyrus?
I would just second that. I mean, the response of people is very gratifying. People are very moved by this story. Also, I mean, people don't realize this, but when you're a filmmaker and you're screening your film for the first time or the first few times, it is nerve-wracking, and you sweat a lot. But it is when people stay afterwards and they're silent, and then they applaud, and then they stick around for the Q&A to listen and ask questions about the story and about the making of the movie. It's quite a plus. It makes it all worthwhile.
Some filmmakers go into a project because they know they want to impact some sort of change. Other people you might think would be inspired to do that, like Oliver Stone, for example. I interviewed him about the politics of his movies, and he really said he's more about being a storyteller. And I'm wondering, are you an activist with this film? Are you a filmmaker? Are you an artist? Are you all of them? And which is your priority going into the project?
Well, for me, the story has to grab me. It has to be just riveting and compelling and emotional and inspiring, all those things we look for in a story when we go to see a movie. If it doesn't have those qualities, the message, the issues involved, all that is unimportant. Because I think the problem is when you approach it just as an issue-oriented filmmaker, then people feel like they're getting beat over the head with a speech or a message. It has to work as a human drama first. Now, who knows why we respond to certain stories? A lot of it is sort of unconscious. And for me, I'm of Iranian origin. Betsy responded to the story as a woman. So, whatever grabs you and makes you want to tell a story is fair game. You
were at the Toronto Film Festival where you got the runner-up for the Audience Award. Were you there when that happened?
We had left the festival by the time the award was given, I think.
Yes.
We were there for some screenings, but we had to leave before it concluded.
How did that feel? Because that's a huge festival. It's internationally known. Great films in it. And to even... it does count to be a runner-up in a category like that at a festival like that.
Well, you see, we were runner-up to a movie called Slumdog Millionaire. And Slumdog Millionaire had not even opened yet, so we didn't even know that we were runner-up to a pending, Best Picture Academy Award winner and huge international hit. So at the time, we thought, well, what's this movie we were runner-up to? No, I'm just kidding. It was great. It's great to be recognized.
I mean, just to get in the festival was a kick. We weren't thinking. We never think about an award. I mean, there's hundreds of different projects in that festival in different categories. But we weren't thinking of that at all. It was just a bolt from the blue. Is like, wow, well, that's great. Does that mean more people will see it then? Which is what we really want. It's for the audience. So it was great. It's the best award you could get.
I guess I want to conclude this with a serious question and get your perspective from both of you. The world has very different views in terms of women's rights and civil rights. And within each culture, there's an evolution of understanding and hopefully an evolution of those rights. I'm wondering how you think as a sort of a more modern Western society in the United States, we can respect the cultures in which the oppression occurs while still helping to have that culture evolve.
All right. Well, I would just say culture. Culture is the adaptive medium of mankind. There's nothing precious about culture per se. It is meant to evolve. It is meant to change. It is malleable. One would hope that human rights, which is universal interest or should be of universal interest, would progress through the culture. This doesn't change everything about a culture, but treating other people with the right to life, the right to a certain amount of liberty, I think is the minimum we can ask. And so I don't feel any particular discord with saying that certain aspects of certain cultures aren't good and can be changed without destroying the whole thing, certainly.
Sure.
I mean, that's what's... We've run into a little bit of that with this story. When you're dealing with stoning, unfortunately, you're dealing with something that in certain societies and certain cultures is religiously sanctified and codified in the sort of the religious system. So It's sensitive stuff, but people know the difference between right and wrong, and stoning someone to death is wrong and shouldn't be happening. And it's unfortunate it's taken this long for somebody to make a movie about it.
Sure,
I
sure.
would say
We're out of time, or we can't put it on YouTube. I want to thank you for tuning in to learn more about the stoning of Soraya M. Check it out.